When you understand the way that God has designed men and women to be,
Right.
there is a natural attraction that happens between a man and a woman. And that natural desire, if you don't have boundaries and things put in place there, you're going to be drawn to one another. Covenant Army, we'd like to welcome you guys back to the podcast. You are back here with Brent and Lucy, and we're so excited that you are. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Go do it right now. Right now, make sure you subscribe wherever it is that you're watching or listening. And for you folks that are just listening, remember, we are on YouTube as well, so you can go there and actually see a video as we were recording here live in the podcast studio. So what do you think, sweet?
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think people should subscribe, like, share. And definitely comment on the videos and podcasts and let us know what you think. If you have any thoughts on what we're talking about, or if you want us to talk about a specific topic, please let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Like just having good conversations. I mean, we are husband and wife. We have conversation ourselves, but continue to love to have more of a conversation with everyone that's out there that's part of the Covenant Army. So guys, if you're taking time out to listen to the podcast and you're following us on any of the places that we're out there, Lord, you guys are part of the Covenant Army. And guys, we're praying for you. We pray that your marriage is getting stronger, and also praying for the folks that are looking to get married, because we get them all, babe. We get people that are married, people that are looking to be married, and even people that have been through divorce that want to do it God's way.
Yes.
And,
that's good. It's never too late to learn the right way to do it.
Absolutely. So, babe, this is the day right before Thanksgiving. And I guess I want to start by saying I'm so thankful for the Covenant Army, that, people are being serious about their marriage and about their family, and they want to honor God with each of those, because it's super important.
I guess I'm going to say that I'm thankful for what God has done in our marriage.
Yes.
Bringing us together to be able to have this platform to speak on marriage, because he's been doing a mighty work for 17 years in our lives. So I want to say thank you.
Yes.
For not being crazy and listening to God, and, taking his word and actually applying it, and being a good husband.
Well, thank you so much. Likewise, that sentiment, babe, because, I'm thankful for you every single day, and just grateful to be able to do life with you. So, being part of this ministry, we get to meet with a lot of different people, and just yesterday we met with actually a mom and her son at church as we're coming out with church, and they were talking about, very interesting, that what we've been doing on the podcast and what they've been seeing. And, they were just encouraging, but it's also just so you never know who's watching, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You never know who's watching. And just to have a few minutes talking with this mom and their son, and just hearing her son, I don't know, did we catch how old he is?
I know he's probably early.
I think he just graduated last year, right? If I remember.
Possibly. A year or two ago.
Yeah. So he's in college himself, but just hearing his heart for the Lord.
It was amazing.
It was just, man, I know you were saying you were getting goosebumps, that I was just sitting and talking. And we were only talking for maybe like 5 minutes with this young man and his mom, but he was just on fire for God, and like his passion to want to honor God and to serve God. And specifically when he was talking about marriage, and how he was saying that as his generation, he likes what we're sharing and what we're about, because he knows his generation needs the truth about how God has designed marriage, and how to be a husband and how to be a wife. And he feels called to ministry himself. I think he's called into to being a pastor, and just to go out and share truth with other individuals and people of his peers. Yeah. I can't wait to see what God's going to do in this young man's life.
You can definitely feel the amazing spirit that is on him. And like I said, I had goosebumps yesterday just listening to him speak. Amazing what God is doing already in his life.
And just to see the impact that it's having on his mother, and I know that she shared that she's praying for all of her children, obviously, to have a relationship with the Lord, but just see your faith played out right in front of your eyes. I know we've been fortunate with our own children, but also to see it in other people's lives is just so powerful.
Well, it's amazing just because we know that the youth of today
Mm,
needs to see young people rise up to that degree to really share God's truth and help other young people see that it's possible
mm.
to live this life and still have a joy filled life, a fruitful life, an impactful life, and a purposeful life.
Wow, that's it's awesome that you're sharing all that.
But I mean, I think it's true. I think with all the different opinions and different things that are put out in social media nowadays, I think it causes confusion and distortion to happen with all these young people
Mm,
trying to find their bearings
mhm.
and which way they ought to walk. So just hearing this young man talk about Jesus the way he was and how he can't wait to get out there and just talk to basically his generation, I think it's amazing. I think we need more like that.
Well, for sure. I mean, the younger generations, they are so hungry for truth.
Hmm.
And I believe it's God's truth at the core of it, what they're looking for. And we need more individuals, more couples, more fathers and mothers and husbands and wives that are bold enough to speak the truth in our society today. And that's one of the missions that's behind Covenant Army. It's not,
Mm,
again, we always say it's not about Brent and Lucy. That's
right.
not what it's about. It's about people coming together to equip couples and families, right? And you guys, you have a circle of influence of the people around you.
Mm,
Like, recognize the people that God has placed around you and speak into their lives.
right.
Don't miss the opportunity. Life is too short. You never know when the last opportunity is going to pass with a certain person. And you want to make sure that you utilize each moment that God has blessed you with to be in someone's life, and you have so much to share, so
Hmm.
much wisdom. And jumping off of that, it's pretty interesting as this young man was talking about his friend circle and how he has one particular friend that he's pretty close with that he wants to do ministry with.
Hmm.
And it makes me think about a post that we shared probably about a week or so on our social media platforms that got pretty good coverage, a lot of comments. And that's what I love, to share out God's truth and have people speaking back and knowing it hits people and it moves them to respond.
Mm,
And I think that's what a word of the Lord does. It moves us to respond, to be obedient what God's puts on our heart.
mm.
And this particular post is talking about friends that we shared. And the post said, the wrong friends can ruin a marriage. The wrong friends can ruin a marriage. And boy, is that so true.
No, I can't disagree.
You know, just being aware of the people that you have around your marriage, that they have influence on you
Mm,
and how you're doing life, how you're doing marriage, how you're relating to one another. Um, but just recognizing like how important that is and how careful we have to be with who we allow in our lives.
oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm thinking back to the friends that we have had in our life that have influenced
Hmm.
or been impactful to our walk as a husband and wife. And they've always been minimal. We have we've always tried to, the friends that we choose, we're
Hmm.
very intentional about who we allow in our circle
Hmm.
because it is true the way they think, act, feel, and what they're sharing on a continual basis will definitely start to shape the way you start to think, act, or feel.
Hmm.
And then you'll see it play out in your relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And you talk about a small circle of influence. One thing that I have noticed, and I know we've talked about this ourselves, just you and I, is that recognizing that certain people in your lives are there in your life for certain times.
Hmm.
That God kind of moves people in, and then other times He moves people out.
Oh, yeah.
And I think about our time together. For many years we've been together now. We've had, like you said, small increments of people in our lives that are very impactful at a time, and then life happens and things change up and they kind of move into different positions. But God always seems to have someone else He moves back into the circle, if you will.
Yeah, we've had people that come in for a certain amount of years
Hmm.
and then they're gone.
Yep.
And sometimes it's sad and sometimes it's almost happening organically, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's an abrupt, like, they were in, they're out.
Yeah.
And then there are some that stay long term. Those are the ones that I mean by like minimal or few.
Hmm.
I don't think like genuine friends. I don't think you have many of those. Usually there's just one or two
Hmm.
that stick around long term that you can really relate to and have a positive influence on your relationship.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you say, like people that are there for long term, and that relationship grows and it strengthens, and you have that trust and commitment within the relationship, like people that you know that you can allow a little bit closer.
Well, and here's the thing. I just want to jump in and say sometimes you got to be careful because we've known couples that have had friends that lean in, and sometimes it's almost like a wolf in sheep's clothing that comes in to infiltrate their marriage.
Mm.
And maybe like the person of the opposite sex starts to flirt with your spouse, and different things have happened in relationships like that that are detrimental to the marriage and then to the family. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you have to be very intentional in knowing the people that you're allowing in,
Hmm.
like truly knowing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess intentional, but stay aware. You
Mhm.
know, always we always talk about like a fair proof in your marriage when you're talking about this particular topic,
Mm,
because you don't always know someone's intention. And if you're not being super intentional and create healthy boundaries within the marriage,
right.
someone can slip by without you even noticing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I know very early on we've shared this. I don't know if it's on this particular podcast or the one we had prior to that we talked about that, men and women can't be friends. And I know, and we share that with a lot of people who are like, "Whoa, what are you talking about? I've got, if it's a guy, I got female friends and she's got male friends." I'm like, "Okay, but be careful because there's always that line that is gets very blurred
Right.
as the relationships grow, because men and women have a natural attraction toward one another.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be necessarily a physical attraction. It can be an emotional attraction that starts to build and the lines get blurred if you're not super, super intentional. And
Hmm.
that's why we say it's better not to go down that path. I mean,
Right.
you can have friends like you and I.
Right.
Um, we have female friends that are both our friends.
Right.
But however, I don't spend time alone with any female friends.
No, I mean, even like my best friend
Hmm.
that currently is single,
Hmm.
I know just from what we know working in this field that you still have to have a level of respect and a boundary
Hmm.
when it comes to relationship with you, because it is easy to make an emotional connection with someone if you don't have the proper boundaries in place,
Hmm.
and it'll ruin friendships, it'll ruin marriages. So we are definitely very very intentional, and I love, you know, friend that I'm talking about, that she is also very intentional with trying to be respectful
Hmm.
and not cross certain boundaries
Yeah.
in conversations, because there are people that are so friendly that they start to cross boundaries in communication,
Mhm,
like levels of respectful conversations. I
mm,
mean, sometimes they get a little bit too, I don't know, conversation crosses a boundary that
mhm,
now it causes different thoughts in people's minds to
mhm.
start to open up, you know? So you have to like, you definitely have to safeguard a relationship when it comes to friends. So I'm curious, this post that we posted
Mhm.
about a week ago, did anybody have like crazy comments, or did everybody pretty much agree?
Well, overall, most people agree,
Okay, good.
right? Most people agree that certain friendships can ruin your marriage.
Mhm.
People have unfortunately been down that path where they've faced this in real time,
Yeah.
and another one that is really it's a good reminder is that they also put and family too. Family can ruin a marriage. And
Oh,
again, it's
100%, yeah.
it's different boundaries, but still a lack of boundaries within when you let anyone in between the husband and wife relationship that crosses that line. It starts to cause a divide in the marriage relationship. You have to be super careful of that.
I could see how why someone would mention family,
Hmm.
because typically with family, a lot of people don't have a lot of boundaries. They feel very comfortable.
Hmm.
They're very trusting
Hmm.
with family. And you do still have to have a certain level of boundary when it comes to family relationships.
Yes.
So I can understand that, because it's happened more than a handful of times in people that we've known as far as couples, that families have become a wedge in their marriage.
Yeah. I mean, we say it all the time in counseling. So there's one comment here, and it's kind of talking to that topic about, the relationships between men and women.
Mm,
And she says, so very true. Sad part, they were never really your true friend to begin with. Never once, sad part. I don't want your husband. I don't want you to feel the way that it was feel when it was done to me, but yet here you are still dragging it all along. So in essence, this person, had a friend that said, "Oh, I would never do that to you. It would never happen." And then they
okay.
dropped the guard, and lo and behold, it happened in their
In the
relationship
relationship.
where they allowed that friend to come across some certain lines, and it backfired.
Well, here's what I think with some of those, because
Mhm.
I don't believe that everyone, speaking of friends,
Yeah,
are coming into your life with that intention.
I don't think so either.
I think a lot of people are there as friends with good intentions, but not understanding that element of boundaries with somebody's spouse.
Mhm.
You leave yourself open for that emotional connection to organically happen.
Well, yes, 100%, and I think that's why it's important to have these type of conversations. So taking it right down to the core, like the comment that I made just a few minutes ago, men and women can't be friends. Now, there's a reason behind that.
Hmm.
When you understand the way that God has designed men and women to be,
Right.
there is a natural attraction that happens between a man and a woman. Think about it. Like there's a draw that happens between a man and a woman. You're drawn into one another.
Okay.
Okay. And that natural desire, if you don't have boundaries and things put in place there, you're going to be drawn to one another. And yes, for some guys are mainly physical. When I say mainly physical, for the most part, they catch things by their eyes when they start gazing and looking at and longing. It draws them into
Hmm.
the temptation,
Right.
you know. And for women, typically it's on the emotional side. Not saying the physical side can't be there, can't be the door, but there's like an emotional connection that draws her into that relationship.
Well, I mean, yes, I agree with you, but it also happens with men because
Hmm.
let's just say, we're having a disagreement
Yes.
and I have a really good friend that's a female that we talk all the time. And then she happens to be your friend as well. And all of a sudden you find yourself kind of discussing with her some of the disagreements we're having. And she understands you to a certain degree that makes you feel kind of safe and secure sharing with her your feelings because she's not putting you down, undermining your feelings, or dogging you out. All of a sudden, you feel like, oh, this feels cool. Somebody that's actually edifying me and understanding the way that I feel.
Mm.
That right there can open a door
Of course.
for a potential affair to happen.
100%. In that scenario that you're painting there, because she begins to look attractive to me.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She begins to look attractive to me
Right.
because it's pumping my ego.
Right.
It's making me feel good. It's making me feel like a man.
Well, that's why I wanted to share that like example because I'm sure many couples out there can place themselves in that situation.
How it can happen to anyone. I think I'm going to talk just for guys and men in
Hmm.
general. Um, Pride is a big thing for men. We want to feel like men. We like to feel like men.
Right.
And when women show or a woman shows a man attention, pumps him up as far as his ego goes,
Hmm.
there becomes that magnetic pull that starts to happen.
Right.
Like it literally starts to pull you toward them. And that's why if you're not really aware and being really truthful about yourself, and that's why like a lot of times, especially in ministry, they're like, be careful as far as men and women hugging each other,
Mm.
like frontal hugs
Right.
or showing that type of physical affection
Hmm.
because it can get skewed.
Right.
The same thing for a guy that maybe his wife hasn't hugged him in a couple days, and he's, just trying to be nice and greeting people and hugging people. It does something to you. And the same thing on the woman's side. What if that woman hasn't been hugged in weeks from her
Right.
husband or told, hey, you look really nice today? And
Hmm.
somebody at church gives her a hug and says how nice she looks.
Right. All of a sudden, the physical causes a thought to start to happen.
Tempt her.
Yeah, there's a seed that's
Yes.
dropped, and then
Yep.
the thoughts take you down that path. That's what's so important. Like the Bible talks about
Mm,
your thoughts
mm.
and being careful about, in essence, what you ruminate.
Yeah. Well, you're watering the seed, and you
Right.
water a seed, chances are it's going to grow.
Right. And I feel like that's probably obviously what transpires when you see some of these pastors at churches that
Mm,
unfortunately we hear like, oh, they had an affair or
Right.
obviously, something happened
Well, it could happen to anyone.
to anyone.
That's the thing, right? Sometimes we think, oh, well, they're pastors, they should be above them. They're at the core of it, they're a human being. They're typically a man, and these things are getting fed. And if he's not careful himself, he'll be led down that path of temptation
Well, here's how I can
because it
see
goes
that
to the
happen.
core of how God created you.
Here's how I can see it happen easily
Yeah.
with a pastor that's like, he's a great pastor.
Hmm.
He preaches a great message, and you start to get
Affirmations.
affirmations
Yep.
from females like, you're so good. Wow, you really deliver such a great message. And
Yeah.
that starts to feed the ego a little bit
A little
to
bit, a
where,
lot of bit.
to where, you know, a person can lean into those affirmations regularly, like they start looking for them,
Hmm.
especially if he's not being affirmed at home.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right. And I can see how easily that can cause somebody to fall. And everybody's always so shocked. Oh, but you're a pastor.
Because people let their guard down.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. You let your guard down
Right.
because you think, well, this would never happen. They should never do that. And you yourself let your guard down. They let themselves guard down. And before you know it, it's taken down the path and everything starts to fall apart. Like churches have literally been broken apart because of this.
Right.
Now, I want to bring this back because we're not, I mean, we started it off talking about how friends can ruin a relationship.
Right.
As far as scriptures go, like biblically based scripture, and I know we had some in the comments and we wanted to pull this up on the front side. Share a couple scriptures talking about the
Friendship.
importance of friendships and how that can impact a marriage relationship.
Yeah. Proverbs 17:17 is a good one. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity.
Mm,
So this verse, what it means is that a friend should be there for you through good and bad times, where sometimes even like a family member has a hard time relating. Sometimes friends can stand closer to you in
mm.
those times, right?
Well, before you move on, we'll go into
Hmm.
the next one because a friend should love at all times.
Correct.
And I want to drill this home because, guys, love is not an emotion. Love is an action. Love is a choice.
Correct.
And as a friend, I should want what's best for your marriage.
Mm,
You see what I'm saying?
right.
I should be more focused on what's really going to be good for you. Like if you were my friends, like you and your husband,
Right.
and making sure, well, the best thing that I know for a marriage is that there needs to be clear boundaries.
Right.
So as that friend, I'm going to just create those boundaries myself and I'm going to make sure I don't cross those boundaries.
Right.
And then also, if I'm seeing any kind of actions or behaviors that would raise eyebrows or think, hey, this looks a little weird, I need to bring it up. I'm going to talk to that man and say, hey, be careful because what's happening there, you're going down a slippery slope.
Right.
Check your behavior, check your attitude.
Right.
Because I'm a friend. I got to speak the truth in those times when I see threats.
So what you're saying is, you as a friend
Yes.
to another married man,
Mhm.
if that man is slipping,
Yeah.
like he's doing things that he shouldn't do, that yourself is going to cause harm to his wife and his marriage.
Mhm.
As a friend, you're called to stand in the gap in essence and say, like, call him out.
Well, I'm there to fight with my brother, and he may not be able to
That's
see.
what I mean by call him out. You got to call him out.
Yeah,
Like
when you
you got
say
to
call him out, but
Okay, I don't mean rough. I
Yeah.
don't mean go like toe to toe with the guy,
Mhm.
but call him out. Obviously, speak the truth in love
Mm.
and let him know, hey, I'm noticing certain behaviors here.
Well, yes, because chances are he may be deceived and not seeing it for as it truly is. He may see it as harmless.
Yeah.
But someone on the outside can say, you know what, buddy, that's not the best path to go down. That's not a good place that this is going to take you. Like when you think about in the Bible and it talks about fleeing from sexual immorality, that's not just this lackadaisy, oh, be careful, buddy. See you next week. It's like, whoa, kid, hold on right there, man. That there's not going to be good for you. And again, because prayerfully you have that relationship that you can speak truth into that person. Like
Yeah.
a good friend is going to say something.
Right.
If I don't really feel that desire and need to say something, I got to check my friendship. Like,
Mm.
is this really like, am I a true friend to this person or not?
Right.
Am I willing to sacrifice my own comforts and have those tough conversations?
And that's the hard part for some people. And when they have a good friend
Mm.
and they see them doing something that's going to lead them off a cliff in essence,
Yeah.
they question themselves like, well, it's going to put us in a really rough spot.
Mhm.
I
Maybe
don't
it's,
want to jeopardize the relationship that we have, and they don't say something.
or maybe it's not my place to say anything.
And
That was a big lie that I know that I used to believe back in the day. Oh, it's not my place to say anything. I mean, he's a grown man. He'll figure it out.
or this comment, oh, that's not my business.
Yeah. Same thing. It's not my
Mm,
business. Well,
that's
if
not being a good friend.
it's not being a good friend, you know, because you should want what's best for your friends.
Right.
And again, you need to set your own boundaries for yourself. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to boundaries, I always say you got to set double boundaries, triple boundaries.
Well, here, I'm going to share this one.
Yeah.
Proverbs 18:24.
Hmm.
One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin,
Mm,
but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother.
that's exactly what we're talking about right there,
Hmm.
right? Ones that have unreliable friends, and that's those friends that are not speaking up to be those posts for you
Right.
in life in general. And this can be in so many different areas of your life. It could be in financial areas. Are you going to be that friend that speaks up, says, "Hey, I don't know if that's really going to be what's best for you guys."
Right.
You know, hey, maybe you might want to do some more research, or you're just going to sit on the sidelines and just let it go. Because there are, I'm going to be honest. There's been those times in my life where I see somebody doing something like, "Yeah, I wouldn't do it that way," but I don't say anything
Mm,
because for many of the reasons that we talked about, and
mm.
especially for guys, I think it's probably more for guys. Oh, they'll figure it out. They need to learn the lesson anyway
I think I'm on the opposite side of that,
because you're a
where
woman. I
where I
think.
just
I
sometimes
think.
sometimes I maybe talk too much and go in full force to let them know, hey, you know what, that's not right. Like
Mm,
I'm very black and white. I don't like gray is not my space.
yeah.
So I just see it and I'm like, ah, all right.
Mm.
I mean, now thanks to God, He helps me. He helps me to put a filter on before I just, deliver. But yeah, to your point where you're kind of like, it's not my business. I shouldn't say anything.
yeah.
I'm more like, okay, how am I going to say this because this person needs to know.
Yeah. And I know a verse you're probably going to get to, but it's one that I think about when you think about friends ruining your marriage. Bad company corrupts good morals.
That's a great one.
What's the verse? What's the title on that one? I'm
You
sorry.
talking the address?
Yeah, the address, the location in the Bible. So, because guys, we encourage you to go grab your Bible, look these verses up for yourself, and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you. We're having the conversation and we're sharing with you, but listen, we're just messengers. God's word is there for you to feast on every single day.
1 Corinthians 15:33.
Can you read it for us?
Read it for you.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I thought you were prepared, baby
I
girl.
am prepared. I just have a few different
Translations?
that I'm pulling from.
Yeah.
Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals.
Okay, guys. There's God's truth. Bad company corrupts good morals. So in essence, like you said before, most of us don't go out thinking, "Oh, I'm going to take this down the horrible path. I'm waking up today because I want to ruin my marriage."
Right.
You don't think that way. That's not typically the way people think. But recognizing the people that you have around you that have the potential to ruin your marriage. If they don't have good morals, good character, good values, you are naive to think that it's not going to impact your life and your marriage.
Well, here's an easy way to know. If you're having, whenever you hang out with this person or have conversations with this person,
Mhm.
if it's causing disconnect or disruption in your marriage, it's like a huge red flag. If it is causing discourse between you and your husband because you have this friendship with this person, it's a huge red flag.
Or you and your wife.
That's what I meant. Like,
Well, I know what you're saying, but
yeah,
I like to give both sides.
yeah. If it's causing issues in your marriage, then you have to reassess
Mm.
your friendship and why is it causing that discourse in your marriage and contention. Like, ask yourself, reflect
Mhm.
yourself on conversations that may have been had and figure out why, like, your husband or your wife might be upset.
Well, I think as we wrap this podcast up, like allowing your spouse to speak into you as it pertains, like, I guess I want to say is like, you guys have to be on board with what kind of friendships you're going to allow around your marriage.
Right.
And both of you guys have equal voice and equal value who you're allowing around your marriage. Like,
Mhm.
it shouldn't be, one of you decides for both of you and the other person doesn't get a say so,
Right.
because you guys are each going to see threats differently.
Correct.
And I believe that God brings men and women together because we have different perspectives and different viewpoints that we're both keen to.
Mm-hmm.
That when brought together, we're going to be able to make a wiser decision. And I mean, even take it up a notch. Like, you guys should be praying together
Right.
about who you're going to allow around your marriage and around your family.
Yes.
We didn't even talk about the kids aspect of like how wrong friendships can impact your children. Like if you guys are having people that are hanging around your family that again are not living the morals and values that you want your kids to be in the future,
Right.
to live out in the future, but you're having friends like that, again, you're very naive to think that's not going to impact your family.
Right.
And you your job as a parent is to safeguard your children. That's the bottom line. Like your job is to safeguard your children. So keep those threats far and far away.
Mm.
It's nothing to play with, it's nothing to mess with. But you got to be aware of that and be
And
intentional.
God's given us his truth
Mhm.
for us to safeguard our marriage
Mhm.
from friendships that can be detrimental to your relationship. So, eyes wide open, maybe you need to have a conversation with your spouse today
Mhm.
if there's been some contention
Yeah.
because of friends.